Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into another thrilling broadcast with us here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I know we've got some new faces in the crowd today as an audience, so if you are joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, over the last few months, we've had the immense privilege of getting to partner with the amazing folks at the Early Career Ocean Professionals. This is a series that has come together through the amazing folks, too, at the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition, so a big thank you to them to help make this all possible. And today I'm really excited because we are bringing in someone for her very first broadcast with us, someone I've wanted to have on for quite some time. A quick note too, this program and the entire ECOP series is on our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch this one in like 3 weeks or 3 years down the road, you can absolutely go there and do just that. Now, I can tell you all sorts of accolades about Amanda Horn. I can tell you about her company, but she's going to do all those amazing things. I will just say this. I had the chance to go to St. John's. I drove like 7.5 hours across my province last year to go to this amazing ocean conference. And there's some of the most inspiring, incredible people from all around the world that were there. I went to like 50 talks. It was great. But there was one person there that inspired more people than anyone else. I think she ended up with like 50 different new partnerships from this one conference alone. And that is Amanda. And it's because of her passion, her perseverance, her dedication, and her knowledge about the ocean realm, what we can do to protect it, and her own efforts to do just that through a really unique and interesting approach. So with that as your backdrop, I'm going to bring in Amanda live from Barcelona at the UN Ocean Decade Conference to join us and tell us a little bit about herself. Hi, Amanda.
That was the best intro. Thanks, Jesse.
My pleasure. Intros are my fun. I've done 1,500 of these, so if they're occasionally halfway decent, that's good to hear. Whew.
You've got a great track record. It's awesome to be here. Hey, everybody.
Well, so nice to have you. And I know you got a lot to share with us. So if you want to bring that up and dive in, literally and figuratively, before your amazing stand-up paddleboard session tomorrow morning at the conference, which is like the best conference ever.
There was a lunch today, sustainable seafood with the chef, like so many good things going on here.
We
So
should
I'm
all be in Spain.
very excited to be here. Absolutely. All right, here we go.
While you're pulling it up too, I'll just say, Amanda, before we went live, Amanda was telling me about her clothes specifically, and it's the only broadcast I'm ever going to suggest that at some point during the program you need to hear about her clothes because it really does make a big difference. So with that teaser, I'm leaving you in her capable hands, and I'll zip my lip.
Awesome. Well, it's so great to be here. Like Jesse said, I'm from Canada, in landlocked Ontario. So Lake Ontario is where I live. I spend so much time up at the cottage with my family up in Muskoka. So water has always been such a big, important part of my life. And so for today, we have a little bit of an interactive option if you want. If you have your phone handy, you can go to menti.com. You can either enter the code directly or scan the QR code right here. Just got a couple pop quizzes and polls and things, so would love to have your participation if that is up on your radar. So without further ado, like Jesse said, my name is Amanda Horn, and I today am here wearing a couple of different hats. I'm the founder of a blue beauty company that is tied to ocean conservation. I work with the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition, and big event that we have coming up is Ocean Week Canada from June 1st to June 9th. So many good things that are coming in the next couple of months. It's approaching very, very quickly. And finally, as part of this ECOP Early Career Ocean Professionals series, I am so proud to be an ECOP myself, which is somebody who is within the first 10 years of their career in ocean and water. Then I also have the pleasure of serving on their advisory board. So I get to work with a lot of amazing other scientists and creatives and photographers and videographers and dive instructors. And we just get to work on the coolest problems and projects together and ultimately try to save the ocean. So with that, like I said, I am currently on the other side of the world in Barcelona, and you're probably wondering what the heck is a beauty founder doing at an ocean science and sustainability conference? Well, really, what I do is because my background is in marketing. So I'm coming at this from the lens of being very curious about how people interact with water and an ocean, and how do we create those stronger connections so that we feel more connected and more inspired to want to take positive action to help save the planet and heal ourselves. So, my three loves in this world, I would have to say, are I grew up as a dancer, and that is by far my first. I absolutely love food. And the last one, water and ocean, just really encompasses everything. And I've been able to find several ways to bring all of my worlds and passions together through my work and for play. And I'm so excited to share some of those with you and hopefully inspire you as well today. So a few years ago, I started asking myself, during after the pandemic and was struggling a little bit with work and felt like I needed a change. And I really wanted to find a way that I could be part of this bigger conversation. And what is sustainability? What do we need for the world coming up in the next couple of years? And I always thought that maybe I had to be a marine biologist or had to be a scientist to be relevant in ocean conservation. But I knew that I was really passionate and loved scuba diving. I love being in the water. I know that I was really, really creative and I love solving problems. And I just absolutely love to generate new ideas through brainstorming and having really cool and interesting conversations. And ultimately, those led to a lot of different business ideas and opportunities. So I started to think maybe I could make myself somehow relevant in this ocean conservation talk. And I guess where a lot of you guys might be at is you're always wondering, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I'm still very much trying to figure it out. But I do remember that my grade 8 career test said that I would either be a food critic or a stuntman. So, fun facts there. I actually don't feel like they're too far off. And I remember being at the Career Center where they said, you are going to do the equivalent of kindergarten to grade 12 4 times. So you better enjoy whatever it is that you choose. And for me, I love to move around. I have so many different passions and things that I want to be working on. So choosing water not only gave me a way to dabble in a bunch of different things, but ultimately, I just learned so much about myself and about the world on a daily basis. So I'm really happy that I've chosen that. So, as an entrepreneur, what do? We turn our ideas into reality. And the other side to that is more and more people are really wanting to have a positive impact on the planet. And you can't be everything to everybody. So, when you want to choose a place to have an impact, choose one thing and start there. And like I said, for myself, I chose water, which encompasses the ocean. And I remember being in grade 2, and my teacher told us that we were going to write a letter to the prime minister asking him to help us save the rainforest. But I felt very confused because I lived in Burlington, Ontario. I'd never seen a rainforest before, even though I knew I loved all of the animals that were in it, but it just didn't feel like I was connected to something that was so far away from me. And that's very much the same as people who, when they think about the ocean, maybe you don't see it every day. You don't naturally think about it. But what you need to understand is that the ocean is connected to absolutely everything in our lives. And I will get into that a little bit more. So if you haven't had a chance to get onto Menti, here's another chance to try it. The code will still be at the top for the rest of the presentation, but I am going to jump right in. So to frame this all up, what am I doing here in Barcelona? Or mind you, what are these 1,500 other delegates, probably more, from around the world having 5 days of conversations, lots of different events, so many different talks and presentations about how the world is going to come together and protect 30% of the world ocean by 2030. That is the big global goal. And this is a big problem that we are looking at solving, or a big challenge, rather, because right now, at this time, about give or take 3% of the world ocean is right now protected. And one of the biggest things that we really need to figure out is how to manage the human impact. So, managing human activity and what our actions, the negative impacts that a lot of those can have on the ocean. So, that's really important that we put that focus and that behavior change into view. There are 10 unique challenges of this ocean decade. And the one that I am certainly most passionate about, and the teams that I work with, is challenge number 10, which is about changing humanity's relationship to the ocean. And it's not always necessarily that it needs to change, because there are quite a few people that already very much feel connected on a daily basis. They respect and they understand that humans are interconnected with it. So it's more about reconnecting humanity with the ocean. And the other one, like I said, food is my second love. So I will choose sustainably feed the global population, because Seafood has huge potential to feed the world, to create jobs, and there are a lot of positive things that can be done if we are farming and fishing and feeding the world in a sustainable way. So here's our first chance for a Mentimeter. Everyone, get your phones out, your apps up, or Jesse is going to be manning the chat. You can use the chat function on this presentation in YouTube, wherever you're calling in from. But I would love to know what comes to mind when you hear the word ocean. Is it a place? Is it a specific memory? What is coming up? Blue, colors.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if anyone does want to chime in on YouTube, please feel free to do so. We'll check in there. And if we get any answers there, I'll pass them along to Amanda, but keep them coming on Mentimeter. We've got a few of you. That's fantastic.
Going. It's pretty big. It's a big responsibility, but it's also so ambiguous.
Quick question, Amanda. I pulled up Mentimeter as well, and when I got it up, it looks like I can only give one answer. I don't know if there might be stopping some people from getting any more in, but blue and water are our first two, certainly.
That's
That's okay.
You should be able to keep them coming, but shall we move on to the next?
Yeah, that would be lovely. We'll see if there's a way to do that. I'll bring it up myself and see if there's an option like that.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, seeing that I am from Canada, and like I said, I'm a little bit landlocked, and I used to think that I would associate the ocean with going on vacation. So if I was going scuba diving in Mexico or I was going abroad, and I really had to stop and take a important look at what was going on around me. We actually have the longest coastline in the world, and 50% of that is the Arctic Ocean. So if you take a look, if you imagine that we are going to fly around the Earth once, Canada's coastline is the same as doing that 6 times around. So that's really, really big. So we have a lot of opportunity to be able to protect it and manage the activities that go on around it. And whenever we're talking about ocean, we also have to recognize that that also includes our freshwater systems, whether water is frozen or fluid, if it's a lake or a river. It doesn't matter. Water is so key to shaping our identity as humans. And so that is something that we love in this conversation and reminding people that just because we say ocean doesn't mean that we're not including these other bodies of water. All right, next quiz. Does anybody know what percentage of the Earth's surface is water? What do we got? Okay.
Ooh, we got a couple answers. Looks like sort of 40, maybe 90,
Looks
80,
like 40, 80.
like
All
that.
right.
I think it's 71 is my understanding, but I don't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, prompting some others.
Not a surprise.
Well, we're all in the right range. So the answer is yes, 70-ish%. So our bodies at the time that we're born are between 60 and 70% water, and that fluctuates throughout our lives. But 70% of the Earth's surface, 71% of the Earth's surface is water. And for myself, this is really where that curiosity started to kick in, because I noticed that there were a lot of parallels between our bodies as humans and the world's bodies of water. And so that is really this catalyst for my curiosity in going into what is the human ocean connection. So the more that I started to reflect on this and I started to become a free diver and I started thinking about what happens to our bodies when we spend time in water, there's all these interesting physiological changes that take place. And for me, it was really that sense of connection to water that inspired me to want to take action for it. This is one of my favorite facts. So, we are all born with something called the mammalian dive reflex, which, if you have ever seen those newborn baby swimming lessons, a baby will instinctively open their eyes and hold their breath and comfortably breaststroke for up to a minute. And we lose that sense as soon as we learn to walk. So, this is something that we're born with, and we kind of lose it. And it's something that we're able to retrain. So when you see those divers who are diving down deep without any equipment, they've actually been able to retrain themselves to hold their breath and withstand that at a really deep depth. So we are made from water. And another important thing is what would be considered healthy body of water. It has to be something that we can drink. If you have access to clean, safe drinking water, if you can comfortably go swimming in the lake or the body of water that's near you, and if fishermen can do their job and they can sustainably farm and fish seafood and fish, then we know that it is somewhere healthy that we want to be able to engage with in that blue space. So, my job as a marketer, before I decided to start my own company, this is what we do. We are here to create connections, and whether that's between a product and an audience, if that is a service, but we have to do that by telling stories. And it's one of the most effective ways to get people to care about something. You know, when you sit down and have a conversation and you tell somebody about your day or what it is that you're working through, that's a great opportunity for a great conversation that's going to lead to something else. And that is what marketers are responsible for. So I started to think about if I want to start connecting this idea that our actions every day are connected to the ocean, where is a really good place to start where we could reduce the harm that one we are doing probably as consumers. When you go to the store, you probably recognize a lot of these products on the screen. Most of these are single use, disposable. They're not necessarily going to make it into the recycling bin. If it's a product in itself, it might have ingredients in it that have chemicals that are potentially toxic for not only us as humans, but also our water systems and the environment. So started looking at how could we reimagine some of these things that we're using on a daily basis to be more conscious, but still effective so that it's a product that we still want to use, but it's doing less harm. And I figured that everything is connected. So if you at the bottom of this wave, let's start in, let's say, the bathroom, you and your beauty products. If you take a look at, I'm going to challenge you. If you look at your shampoo or your conditioner or your body wash, I'm guessing that first ingredient on it is going to be water. And most formulations are 70 to 90% water, which means that we are shipping, there's huge costs to transporting water around the world, and we're using up one of the most precious resources when there are certainly other alternatives. The next piece of that is that those products can ultimately create water and plastic pollution. So, if the ingredients in them are not safe for our skin or for the planet, they end up washing off your body into the shower. They go down the drain and back out into our systems. And aside from that, depending on what your product is packaged in, it may or may not make it not only into the recycling bin, if it makes it into a landfill, that might actually end up back in the ocean. Because if it's in a landfill, we get a big storm, it somehow gets like tossed into a river. Those rivers carry most of the waste that end up in the ocean out into the open. So, reducing what we can so we have more effective ways to dispose of and use more natural materials is something that a lot of people are really working on, including myself. So here's the mission behind my company. We are called Loless, which, if anybody is bilingual or speaks French, you would know that lo means water in French. And so together that means waterless. And our three pillars here are to use less water, less plastic, and less waste in our everyday lives. So this question here, if everybody shortened their shower, what would that do for the world? This is an experiment, and I think we should try it. The average person takes about a 10-minute shower. How many of you took a shower today or you didn't have access to water? There's all of these things that started to come into my mind. But if, let's say, about 200 people each had a 10-minute shower, that is the equivalent of one backyard swimming pool full of water. That's high water consumption. And yes, we're taught that we have this closed loop system, but we still need to be very mindful of the fresh water and the amount that we are consuming on a regular basis. So, something to think about the next time that you're singing in there, over 5 minutes. Try and keep it short. Pick a song, dance it out, get in, wash yourself, and hop out quickly. My next question for you. This has been the hardest part of designing a beauty product from scratch. Do you have any idea which of these materials would be considered the most sustainable and least harmful to the planet?
Ooh, that's interesting. If anyone wants to
Hmm.
chime in, please do. It looks like we've got a couple answers maybe coming in. Oh, I don't
Hmm.
know. Glass. No
Good,
one picked plastic. I think that was pretty much a given,
good,
which is
yep,
good. I think our kids know that by now. No votes
very
for
good.
aluminum. We got our 2 centimeter cruise. What's the answer, Amanda?
This is good. Well, it's such a toss up. Even I don't have the answer. But when you look at this concept of where do things go, everything must go somewhere. It's one of the four laws of ecology. So because we've been designing to fit recycling systems, chosen to move with aluminum. And this has been a debate, and I've talked to so many different people around it. But glass is not a bad option. There are different ways that glass gets recycled. So, depending on the clarity, depending on the color, it might not actually end up in a recycling system. Glass ultimately breaks back down into sand, and apparently, we also have a sand shortage in the world. So, that's a whole other interesting conversation that I'm not well versed in. But from an aluminum side, there's always a catch. Yes, it takes a lot more energy to produce, but ultimately, every piece of aluminum that has existed can be recycled over and over and over again. So its lifetime to be recirculated is a lot higher than any of the others. Plastic is very challenging, as we all know, especially if it's not the same kind of plastic that is in one piece of packaging. If it is mixed, it's going to end up in a landfill. It is definitely not going to be recyclable. And especially when you look at your products, if you've got anything that's got a spray bottle, it's got a little straw, there's probably a metal spring in it, you're spritzing something out, like maybe it's a sunscreen or maybe it's a face mist. Um, that is definitely going straight into the landfill and not ultimately going to be very planet friendly. Next. So here's where I've been living the last couple of years is I decided I wanted to try and solve this problem of why aren't brands, why aren't businesses developing products more consciously from scratch and taking into consideration the impact that a product that they're going to put out on the shelf is going to have on the planet. And personally, my problem was that I travel a lot for work. And being someone who wants to be conscious about the environment, it was very challenging to be able to take my personal care routine on the road with me. So I really wanted to solve and have something that was going to be conscious for the planet, conscious for my skin and my needs, but also convenient. And so that was kind of this audience. I keep meeting these super cool people who are scientists and explorers, and they spend months at a time on boats, and they don't have access to fresh water necessarily, and they're just craving and dying to have a shower. So a bunch of us got together and said, what are the things that we really want? We want to stay fresh, and we want to be smooth, and we want to keep the ocean clean. And those are the criteria that we are formulating around. So I was lucky enough to find a lab very close to where I live. It's amazing mother and daughter team who are really incredible scientists. They have focused their work on finding ingredients that um, biodegrade well in water and don't accumulate in marine life and aquatic systems. So all of the fish are fine, our waters are going to be clean. And that is so important because you never know what ingredients are being used in products that you're buying. There are all different ways to verify, there's all different checks to go through. So it's really important that you are also educating yourself about the kinds of ingredients that are going onto your skin because that ultimately ends up inside of our bodies and can really affect our health. We've already touched on packaging, so we know how we feel about that one. It has been such a work in progress, but ultimately, whatever the product is that you create, you still want it to be easy to dispose of. You don't want it to leak. There's all of these other considerations. And before you can get into creating something custom, you've just got to prove that people want to buy what it is that you're trying to sell. And that is very much this next phase that I'm heading into, which is the fun part, the marketing and the sales. So for us, it's people whose work saving the world, exploring the world, discovering the world, it takes them all over the place really wanted to design products that were conscious and convenient for you. And so, yes, this is what we call water safe beauty. There's been so many different movements over the last few years. We've seen the clean beauty movement, we've seen green, and there's all these different colors being thrown around. And like Sylvia Earle said, without blue, there is no green. And what is she talking about? having a blue beauty or a water focused beauty company is really looking at ways that we are reducing the harm and the impact that we have on our blue spaces and bodies of water. So that goes through all of those other criteria that I've already talked about. And the importance in that is because when we develop water safe products, you're actually preserving biodiversity, marine life, and we're really starting to take better care of those aquatic systems. I love kelp, and kelp is seaweed, but not all seaweed is kelp. There are so many different kinds, and they typically fall into one of three, again, color groups: red, brown, or green. But you can see this cute little otter who is kind of washing himself down with some sugar kelp here. So we've kind of taken some inspiration from that on how we might be able to create some new materials ourselves. So maybe the next time we check in, Jesse, we can talk about how that product is developing. The cool
Absolutely.
thing about kelp is the cool thing about kelp is that unlike other materials that we see that are natural, yes, like cotton, we have a lot of, but you have to look at how intense it is to be able to grow these different kinds of ingredients and things that we have such common clothing and other single-use disposable things from. The great news about kelp is that it doesn't need any land to grow. It doesn't need fresh water. It doesn't need irrigation. It can just grow out in the open ocean. And of course, yes, there are ways to be able to control it from an aquaculture side, but there's a lot of potential and a lot of really cool companies that have figured out how to make a plastic replica from seaweed. So really cool innovation that's taking place. Right. So ultimately, this ocean decade and this whole week and conversations here in Barcelona are about using that data and the science that we need. So that's me relying on scientists to tell me what is the impact of each of the ingredients that we're going to put into these beauty products on our health as humans and on the world's bodies of water. And just in general, how do we actually take that amazing science and all the data and the numbers and communicate that out in a really creative and interesting and fun way that's going to get people to care? And that's where that connection comes from. So, working together with other scientists and sustainability change makers, I know so many creatives and marketers and communication experts and people coming together to really tell better stories for the ocean. So, it's a really, really exciting time. There are so many ways to save the ocean, and it might seem like they're so far removed, but really, small actions add up to a really big impact. And that can either be positive or it can be negative. So we have to be so conscious and so mindful of every little move we make. So I'm kind of hoping that you're thinking about what is your connection to water? Do you like to swim? Do you like to fish? Do you canoe? Do you just like to walk by the water with your family? Or if it rains, do you like jumping in puddles? Like, what is your connection? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's this big exotic adventure. And it's also thinking about what is it that you like and what is your superpower? And maybe how could that contribute to a positive conversation and movement towards saving water and saving the ocean? And this was some really good advice that I was given a couple of years ago. Like, you'll know that you're doing the right thing when you can have your three P's all together. So that would be your passion, your purpose, and your proficiency or your skills. And so, kind of start to think about what are your favorite subjects in school right now? What are other extracurricular things? What else is going on in your world that feels exciting, that makes you feel really happy and makes you feel good? Those are things that you should listen to. I think of what my favorite subjects were in school. It was always arts and languages. And I also loved social sciences, which I just feel very full circle. And I seem to be back in this space now. So I would love to know if anybody wants to share if they have a favorite subject or a favorite thing that is being studied or worked on, and we'll see if that tracks into decisions that you make in the future. Scientists, excellent. We need more. Two for
I
science.
mean, two for
Excellent.
science.
Very
Yeah,
good. Any
couple others.
artists?
Maybe.
You can
I,
have
I don't know.
multiple.
Well, this is the thing. Like, we work with so many scientists in this role, but I find that a lot of the scientists that we bring on, when they have an arts background or a passion in the arts, it tends to make
Mhm.
them more creative at the science that they do too. So, even if you are super
Absolutely.
keen on science, like, try something else. Do music, do theater, do art,
Do
draw,
it
see what
all.
you can come up with. It might be a sciencey time, Amanda, which is good for our purposes.
It's
But yeah,
good.
that's a good
It's
question.
good.
Hmm.
Excellent. I love that story. There's so many scientists that now are combining art and music in different ways to communicate their work and just makes it so much more engaging, but you don't have to be just one thing, which is incredible. So it's always great to see more science.
We know how to.
Oh, and that's it. So it's just funny. I think back on how I never meant to start a beauty company. I really just wanted to take my skills and my creativity and start a conversation around the ocean. And if I can just talk about the ocean and water all day, every day, I will be very, very happy. So that's what I will try to do. And lastly, just a quick reflection. What action are you going to take for water? It can be anything from having a conversation with somebody about something that you learned today, something that you're thinking about now. Is it about going and sitting by the water and just watching it? There are shoreline cleanups. You can make conscious seafood selections. You can try art. Great. Yeah, these are some good ones. Oh,
Fantastic. Three R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Way to go. That was my big
there
tip.
it is. That's what I would. Excellent.
Amazing, guys.
Good. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I was so happy to get to present this to you. So I will stop sharing my screen so I can see some faces.
We're back. My face, I'll stick around, I promise.
Your face. Your face.
Amanda, well, thank you so much for such a deep dive into your work, your passion. What an incredible story that you have. And thanks to our Mentimeter folks. That's our first ever Mentimeter in like 3,200 broadcasts of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So we might have to have more of those, but those are pretty fun. So
I just figured that platform out, so it's new. We'll work on it.
I love it. Well, we had a question really early on online about how long you're going to be at the conference and what you're doing while you're there. So if you could elaborate a little on that, what sort of a thing
Yeah.
you're attending? Are you presenting? What's going on?
Yeah. So I got here on Saturday and everything really started. What day is it today? Tuesday, yesterday. So really what's happening throughout already losing track of time, jet lagged, all of that. So what happens is the conference is 5 days long, and this was kind of a pre-conference for the next 3 days that were happening. So the first two was a lot of what they call satellite events that happen all across the city of Barcelona. From panel discussions where you have like 5 people who are all discussing a particular topic.
Yeah.
What I'm really interested in, and the talks that I've loved going to, are the ones that really talk about citizen science and the really interesting projects that are happening around the world using recreation and sport. So, how are divers part of this conversation? How are surfers helping to collect data about ocean temperatures? There was a really cool tech startup, actually out of Spain, that has created a little device that gets integrated onto the bottom of a surfboard, and it collects data every time the surfers go out. And then the scientists can take that and make the decisions that they need. There's so many different monitoring projects that are taking place. And so that's a kind of one of the big segments. Over the next 3 days, there's some more intense discussions going around those 10 challenges for the decade. So there's been so much work done on each of those challenges, having a long white paper written about it. So like a really big essay essentially with recommendations on how to move forward towards this 30 by 30 goal. And those are kind of going to be up for debate over the next couple of days. Lots more presentations. There's been a ton of networking. It's really cool to meet people who are working on the same kinds of projects, but different languages in different parts of the world because, our ocean issues in Canada are very different than what somebody else is facing down here in the Mediterranean. And when you talk about sustainable seafood, we have very different species in Canada than we have in other parts of the world. So talking with other people and just connecting, and you get very inspired and open your mind, and different ways to solve problems when we all get to go back and debrief together. So that is
Very
very much what is happening between now and Friday.
way to go. Sounds like a lot of fun. We all wish we were there. It sounds like a great spot, and it's a beautiful hotel too. So just the best
It is
conference ever. Um,
beautiful.
Amanda, we had a question from kids about how they can make better choices when they're buying things. This could be for older kids individually. This can be younger kids with their parents' help. Is there anything that we should look for, companies or sort of certifications to look for with the things that we buy?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. Which part are we talking about? If we're talking about seafood, let's
Try,
talk.
let's
Let's
start with that.
fish,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
perfect.
we can talk about products and clothes. And oh, this is my perfect cue to talk about clothing. Excellent. We'll start with fish. So when you go to the grocery store and you're trying to navigate, like, where did this come from? That idea of traceability and understanding where something is sourced um, is very challenging. Unless there's some sort of recognizable like label, or you can actually speak to the person that caught the fish, which is very unlikely depending on where you're buying your food from. So there's a couple of different things that you can look for from a seafood side. Couple different labels. You might see a little blue crest, which typically says MSC on it, which means Marine Stewardship Council. And that means that the fishery, the person, the people responsible for actually going out and sourcing the fish have been certified a sustainable fishery. And there's several other things that get certified along the way by the time that makes it actually to the grocery store. But that's the first cue. There's another one that is called Oceanwise, and that is another little sticker stamp that you can see on it that very similar. It uses the data from a lot of these other certification bodies to be able to tell you that this is a responsible, conscious choice. So that is one way that the next time you're navigating the grocery store, you can start to look for those kinds of points of differentiation. Let's talk about beauty products and consumer goods in general. There's all different levels and all different standards. There's something called, yes, Loless Blue. You can look for anything that is B Corp, which means that they are certified to the highest standard of not only like social, environmental, and ethical standards, and they're operating holistically as a company in that way. When it comes to products, it's actually still very confusing. There's this terrible phenomenon called greenwashing, now blue washing, where you might see a package for something that is made of cardboard and it's got some green leaves on it and it's got, different icons that make it look like something might be eco-friendly. Doesn't necessarily mean it is. So there's still a lot of research and education that you have to do on your own. So yeah, that is very challenging, and I don't have a great answer for it because that's just the reality.
No, that's a fantastic answer, and I'm so glad you mentioned both the things that actually a lot of our ocean broadcasters in the past have mentioned. Oceanwise and Marine
Yeah.
Stewardship Council are both spectacular programs. Canada,
Mhm.
US, you can look for those pretty much anywhere, and that's about as surefire guarantee you're getting good seafood as you could possibly get. So,
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes.
We've
Oh,
got a
I'll talk
question.
about I'm gonna talk about my
Oh,
clothes
yeah,
because there's some cool things. So the cool thing is that when you're actually dealing with small businesses, a lot of the times, like I said, they want to be building in impact partnerships and making sure that they are being responsible in the materials that they're producing and the products that they're putting out into the world. And so me loving the ocean and wanting to connect with other ocean leaders and water lovers started to focus on a lot of other Canadian brands that are also trying to bring ocean into the conversation through different products and things. So this jacket, for example, that I'm wearing is from a Vancouver company called Lazy the Label, and they're actually they use nylon that is recycled. So they actually work with someone that removes old fishing nets that get discarded into the ocean, which is really bad because that's how sea turtles and other kinds of bycatch got caught. So when they remove those, and they use that nylon in the clothing, that's a great way to upcycle and make use of waste and reinvent it into something new. They also have a repair program. So if, let's say, you get a tear in this, you don't want to just toss your clothes out. You can actually like have it. They'll repair it. Other ways to shop sustainably. If you're somebody that loves fashion and changing things up, like go to a secondhand store, swap with friends. Don't just toss things away. That's really important. And then the blue top underneath is from another Canadian swimwear company called Lingerie. And they actually use recycled plastic bottles in their fabric and also pay into an impact partnership where they are removing plastic bottles from the ocean and other bodies of water. So love
yeah,
supporting other, not only amazing female founders, who had the same kind of awakening, and then we all start to find each other, and it's really cool to be able to connect on that front. Yeah.
How neat is that? Thank you for the lovely detailed answer, Amanda. That was marvelous. Time flies and you're having fun. So we've got about time for two more questions. One, which I know you could answer in like a 2 hour entire talk of its own, but I'm going to keep you short on it and hold you to it. Is what's some advice you'd give to a student that was looking for some startup help? If they're trying to create their own business, what would you tell them? 2 minutes.
I have a short answer. This is my favorite advice. Find a mentor, and then when you're ready, be somebody else's, because you learn so much from people who are older than you, younger than you, who have been through different experiences, and to just be open to sharing what it is that you're being challenged by. Share your idea. I think there's a lot of fear around putting something out into the world and worrying that somebody might take it. But just find people that you trust, find that mentor, find multiple mentors. Everybody has a different perspective. And so I will leave it at that.
It's a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. You've been
Well,
so
thank
spectacular
you.
in all your answers. I just want to make sure we got in this last question too, because I think it's really important. I'm so glad it got asked.
And
What's
look who's here. Jen's here. One
hello?
of my colleagues.
The more the merrier. Bring them all in. The whole town.
Right.
Bring all Barcelona. Amanda, to wrap up with one final question, what's next for you? Is there anything that you want to wrap up with about what the future of Go Loless is, or anything else you want to share with us?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So over the next little bit, so finishing up here in Barcelona by the end of the week, and as soon as we get back home, it is going to be full Ocean Week Canada. So very exciting, because as actually I am an Ocean Week Canada ambassador, and I am launching Loless at the same time. So very fitting to be launching an ocean focused brand during Ocean Week. Tons of really cool events. So no matter where you are across the country, check out your local aquariums. There's going to be so much happening. So if you go to oceanweekcanada.ca, you will be able to stay on top of events going on around and near you. And you can find a bunch of us that are involved in these as well on there.
Spectacular. Amanda, well, we'll certainly be celebrating it on our end. All our students will have the chance to tune in. And as we noted at the top, if you guys want to check out more of the amazing ECOP broadcasts, you can head to our YouTube channel. You can head to the ECOP page and see everyone that we've had on, but lots of opportunity to keep the learning going. And we just really appreciate your time today. Again, check out Amanda's website. Check out more about her and all the amazing stuff she has on the go there. And with that, we're going to say farewell. We'll leave you to the conference. Go have a marvelous, marvelous time. And thank you so, so much for joining us today.